Hey guys, Flare here. I'm making this video to talk a bit about ping in general in Final Fantasy XIV. So let's get right into it. First off, what is ping? Ping is basically the data transfer rate and the distance between you and the server. That is, if you look at basic IT stuff, you have your client and then you have a medium. The medium will transfer data to the server and then the server will respond back to you. This communication in between the client, the medium to the server is basically the ping. So for example, if you're further from the server, the data to send and receive will be much slower than if you were closer to the server. Now let's get into how to check your ping in this game. I like to use arstatus.com. You guys can use something else. There are various sites. You can just use Google for that. In arstatus.com, let's take North American servers for example. So here I go on command prompt and just type ping, and you notice I have 338 ms, which was my ping when I used to play on Crystal back then. I will talk a bit more about that, about why I transferred later on, but for now let's just compare the different ping that I have on different data centers. So here on Elemental I have 143, which is more than half that of NA. If you look on Chaos, I have approximately half in between what NA has and JP has. So basically, the lower ping you have, the better it is. That is, you will have less delays, your GCDs won't clip. I'm gonna talk more about that in depth later on. You won't have mechanical movement delays. Your UIs won't delay that much the lower ping you have. It is for optimal gameplay, you need lower ping. If you're a PS4 player, and I suggest you to go borrow a laptop or any PC that you have at home, just check the ping on this site and command prompt. Either way, myself, having moved and tested many ways of how ping affects your gameplay, especially at high-end content. If you're a casual player, you do not want to care much about that. It doesn't really matter if you're not doing summage raiding at all, but still, having lower ping is a plus. I use Exit Lag. It's a really good VPN. It works for me. For some people it doesn't, for others it does. But for me, it's really great. It changed my gameplay by a lot. Now, I'm going to show you guys 3 different videos about how ping lights up in your GCDs. I'm going to be using Exit Lag as a means to change to different locations, because I can't just transfer servers right now. It would be costly. So here, for example, at US I would have approximately 220s, 243, etc. So first off, let's check for Japanese servers. If you notice here, my combo will light up right after I press Hakaze, for example in Samurai. So you notice I press Hakaze and it lights up almost instantaneously at around 2 o'clock. Now let me log on to another node which will have higher ping, and let's see how that goes on. So here I'm back on a US node. As you can see, I went from 143 ms to 238 ms. It still is not the ms I have on NA, because it's a VPN that I'm using. That is, it is using the different node, the best node possible to get there. However, let's get a comparison of 143 ms to 238 ms, what exactly is the difference? So you noticed here earlier that my Shifu was registering the combo after the Hakaze at around 1 to 2 o'clock. But now watch the difference. It's almost at 3 to 4 and sometimes even 5 o'clock. You will notice that if I double weave, I hot clipped. If I'm going to late weave single, it clipped a little bit on my Hakaze. And that's just from going from 143 ms to 238 ms. Now why is this important at endgame? Note that the higher you're going, the worse it becomes. But why is it important? The reason is CPM. So as you guys know, CPM is really important to maximize your damage in a fight. That is, the more cost you're getting per minute. So here I've taken 3 different logs for the same fight, but when I was on 3 different servers. My name was Flash Renew back then. So here, this was on North America. I was on 338, and I believe this was from my video of 500 ping. I had this spike there. So here you notice that I have 38.7 CPM. That is, per every minute I'm getting 38 costs approximately to 39 costs. Now let's move on to the Europe server, where I would be at 222 ms. Please note that this all was without VPN back then. Now I have even higher CPM because I'm using a VPN. So you notice just for the same fight, I have almost 3 extra costs per minute at 40.9 compared to at 38.7. That means if a fight is approximately 7 minutes, every single minute I'm doing 3 more GCDs, for example, or 3 more OGCDs. This means that in a course of 7 minutes I'm doing 21 more GCDs. In terms of GCDs, that would be massive, especially for a class like Samurai, because you're basically losing mid arrays. You're losing 2 whole mid arrays in that amount of GCDs. Now we move on to JP server. On JP server, you notice that my CPM went to 41.1 compared to 40.9, and this was back then without a VPN. That is, I'm approximately at 222 to around 143-ish. I'm still getting approximately 1 more GCD just from this drop from 222 to 143. And if I were even lower, this would have gone to like 42, 43, 45, something like that. Now I'm using VPNs, it's a lot better. So now let's talk a bit about rotations. How ping affects your rotation? Basically, you have a generalized rotation, a standard rotation that you will do for every class, not counting map rotations, just a standard ways that the balance Discord etc provides, or any resources that provides. I'm going to take Samurai here because it was the class that I used going from a high ping to a low ping server. So here for Samurai you will be doing Higanbana first, or you will be doing Midari first. How does ping affect this? Every 1 minute you're basically doing a loop. So you notice that when I'm clipping, I'm doing my rotation, I double weaved and then I clip something, just messing my rotation here, but I hard clipped. I'm unable to double weave. I had really hard clipped there, and that made me lose a GCD. So what happens then? When you lose that GCD on your loop, you have to adjust that GCD. That means you're no longer following an optimal way of playing. You're already playing suboptimally there. And then you will notice that when you're doing your rotation, the loop itself, you're causing yourself to become in a state of panic, unable to get back on track, and then losing even more DPS. So this is where I noticed back then when I was an NA at 300 plus ping, I was losing a lot more DPS than following my own rotation. I was following the balanced rotation, not saying the balance is bad or anything. The balance is a really good place for resources, but for me it was bad because I was losing more DPS than gaining DPS. So I had to construct my own rotation and see what I can do, and that's why you see in my videos I often use an ad hoc type of rotation. That's just what came down from me playing on high ping, and then it just started to get into me on low ping as well, and then I customize it even more. But I'm not going to talk into that for now. But that's how ping affects your rotation. You basically have to construct your own rotation. No need to change everything, just keep your basics up. For example, for a samurai, what I did was, I know that I have to refresh Higanbana. I clipped my Higanbana a few seconds earlier. I did not use Hagakure because too much OGCDs would cause me to just clip and lose even more DPS by losing a whole GCD. I did a bit of freestyling, a bit of ad hoc. I did my mid-arrays, I delayed my Tsubame Gashi by a little without using a use. So like that, I customized my own rotation, and then I made up a bit suboptimal rotation, which still got me 90s to 95 plus. So like that, you can fix your rotation when you have high ping. Now let's look at mechanical dodging, which is one of the most crucial parts of ping affecting your gameplay. So for example, in a fight, let's say the dummy were to cast something. I'm going to get a GCD and then at 90% cast, move out, get back in, move out, get back in, like that the whole fight, and I'm not losing any GCD, maintaining my uptime, etc., and thus getting my whole damage out at like 100 ping. But what happens when I play the same way at like 300 ping? If I were to move out at 90% of the cost, if I were to hit, move out, move back in, I already got hit by the time I moved out. Because the thing, like I said earlier, you're basically sending data to the server and the server is responding back to you. So your coordinates of your client has moved already. However, by the time you're sending that same data to the server, by the same time the server is responding back to you, at the server, Yo is still here. You have not moved out of the AoE. Yo is still here, you're not out. The server snapshotted you in the damage counter, that is, you got hit by the damage or you died, and then you moved out on your client, and by the time the server sends you back that data, you find yourself here, damage went out, or you just died. That is what is going to happen when you're playing at higher pings. And thus, this is what causes you to lose more GCDs. That is, you're going out for an extended amount of time, not pressing anything. This messes up your GCDs. You're going out, disengaging from the boss. You're basically not doing anything. Things like this is going to affect your CPM, and all this adds up a lot by the end. So this is how ping affects you mechanically. I would like to talk about some ping heavy mechanics. For example, if you play Titan Extreme or Hard, when Titan does Weight of the Land, the brown glowing AoEs on the ground, you might have noticed that you got hit many times when you went out of the AoE. So if you went out of the AoE, you still got hit here. This is just ping heavy mechanics. Now I will talk about what exactly made me transfer from Crystal to JP servers or Europe servers. Back then, when I was trying to improve on pulsing, improving as a samurai in general, I was doing Eden Verstier, and what happened back then was that in case you did E5S, there is a knockback. So there is a knockback, and then there is Ixions that pass through the lines. So what happened is, I was on the right spot, I got knocked back all the way like here, and the Ixions just paused. And then, a millisecond after, my character just randomly gets knocked off out of nowhere. It does not make any sense. Things like that started happening. And that is what annoyed me the most out of everything in playing at high ping. That's why I transferred servers. Another thing, in very rare cases, especially when you're almost at 500 ping, is, for example, you're applying a buff. You have Hakaze, and then you have Shifu. You cast Shifu, it applies on your Kasha. Okay, that's good. But what happens on high ping? When you press Hakaze, and then you press Shifu, your Kasha does not get this Shifu buff. This messes up everything in your rotation. And this is where it gets bad, it gives you the bad experience. The game itself is built on a 500 ms delay. I'm not going to talk about this right now. There is Mr. Happy's video. I suggest you guys to watch his macro video. I think he talks about this in general there. But yeah, this is how ping affects you mechanically. Combining it with your rotation, you lose your CPM, you risk dying. It basically frustrated me a lot when I was doing early procs, because early procs we should try to get as much DPS as possible and die as less as possible, and I was dying a lot of on NA, and this is what made me transfer. So for you all out there, if you're playing on high ping, I highly suggest you guys try put a little bit more effort. You don't have to put too much, just a little bit more effort. Try knowing your rotation, customize it in your own way, do a few testings, and then notice how you will still get high damage at higher ping. I'm just going to my logs for this instance. So for example here, if you were to check my logs on Eden's Gateway when I was still on very high ping on any servers, I could not get a big median. For example, if you were to check like my Void Walker, you see I got bare 95s, but a lot of it was like suboptimal rotations. I got a lot of purples, but that's what I could pull off. But then if I were to check my Eden Verse when I already moved servers, you notice that there is a bigger change when I transferred to Europe and JP servers. And later on I improved even more on the current J, so there is that, but I'm just going to compare these two tiers for now. But you see there is a lot more consistency in oranges, in getting 99s, etc., and less purple. Things like this happened when I'm playing at lower ping. On Eden's Promise, I used a VPN now, and then it went even better. You see my median extra or higher here. I was able to play other classes more optimally. For example, Ninja is very ping heavy. Things like this will come when you're transferring from a high ping to a lower ping gameplay.